Welcome back, my friends, to another week of pain, suffering, and misery. Nah, I'm just joking. This week has been actually a lot of fun. I was really enjoying healing as Mistweaver. We also had a ton of WoW news dumped on us this week, spread out across a lot of different platforms in many separate posts to make it as hard as possible, wanting to find all the new information. But what shocked me the most about the Midnight reveal, apart from the lack of production quality of the reveal itself, is that there were no Xalitos in the cinematic. Finally, no feet. Didn't think that's possible. Also, calling it now, guys, the first Zero to Hero in the new expansion will be on my Haranir Druid as Guardian. You heard it here first. No pull, I just wanna play my badass half-troll, half-elf girl. Anyway, let's focus on the present. Last week I did only +2s to get a bit of a feeling on how to heal with Mistweaver, and score-wise, as you can see, I didn't get very far. But let's talk about something more pressing. Do you see this trinket? Soulbreaker Sigil? Well, I realized that I didn't read this trinket properly. Turns out, it only gives versatility if the enemy dies while the dot is on them, which is probably very rarely in my case, if at all. So, basically I had a trinket on that didn't do anything at all. Just gave me some intellect. So I swapped back to Meraldar's Stall, and now I have 2 unused trinket, which I absolutely hate, but this is all I got. Next I did some weekly stuff, delves and such, but honestly apart from the gilded crest, I didn't get anything good, so let's just move on. Speaking of gilded crests, your girl got herself a nice, long, sturdy 720 crafted staff, baby. This boosted my item level. Oh wait, shit, I forgot the vault. Okay, hang on here. So yeah, vault. It was a tough choice because there were some really good rings in there, which I desperately need. You know guys, you need to put a ring on it. Wait. Pause. Not on that. So yeah, I picked gloves because now I have 2 set. I'll explain soon what it does, don't worry. Welcome to Tazavash. Streets of wondering about your life choices and how did you end up here. I've been avoiding this place like the plague, and I'm glad I abided my time because they shipped some nerfs in here while I was afraid of stepping in. My actual plan was to come in here on a +5, but we were waiting for 20 minutes to get a tank, and when finally one signed up, the group leader was asleep at the wheel and missed it. So I left because if you snooze, you lose, bro. The first boss is General Grievous from Star Wars with the spinning lightsabers. Let's just say if this Fury Warrior was Obi-Wan Kenobi, the galaxy would have been in trouble. On the second boss, our hero warrior gets a taste of his own medicine by standing in the whirlwind not once, but twice. I didn't think the post office could be worse anywhere more than here in the UK, but here we are in the Tazavash post office, where the tank didn't clear the room properly, so we pulled some extra trash during this already stressful boss fight, and I barely managed to keep people alive while also trying to do the mechanics myself. Then before heading into the nightclub of Tazavash, we are meeting with some dealers first. You know, the Jesse Pinkman kind. Then inside the club there is this weird encounter where you have to become the band. Now my biggest issue I have here is that I've seen people say the healer should be on the drums, but I'm a melee healer, There are moments where you have to do the music in combat, so I found it very inefficient to hop in and out because I heal while doing my kung fu stuff in melee. So I don't really know how to go about this in the future. Maybe I call out for a range to go in there? I'm not sure. That is one thing I do know. I know that you should hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It would also help out a lot if you left a comment and like for the algorithm gods. Thank you! On the last boss, I just followed the tank. I know it's a lot of pressure on the tank to play this mechanic well, and I should use my little peanut brain to figure out this for myself, but I haven't been so far, and the DPS were not even following the tank, so they were really hard to keep up. Anyway, this key got timed, and now it was finally time to step it up a little bit and push for Keystone Master this week. So I decided to do all dungeons on a +6. As most of these dungeons went very well, I want to showcase the fun parts of being a Mistweaver, and then I also want to touch a bit on my struggles. I am running the Master of Harmony hero talents, which are meant to be leaning more into damage than the Conduit of Celestials. I mentioned I got the 2-set bonus earlier, which for Master of Harmony can give a proc which buffs your Tiger Palm to do damage and heal everyone for quite a bit. You can have 6 of these procs stored up in total. It doesn't sound exciting on paper, but it does quite a lot of healing I found, so I often ended up spamming Tiger Palm, where there was some pulsating AoE damage coming in. This proc is called Harmonic Surge, and ended up being the 3rd highest ability in my overall healing. Harmonic Surge made some bosses that I've struggled with last week a lot smoother. Unfortunately, I was a bit stubborn about getting a weak horror for this proc, and I wish I got one a lot sooner because later on I sometimes forgot about it and didn't utilize it often enough in my opinion. Mistweaver has, in my opinion, one of the strongest external defensives, the Chi Cocoon, or the Cocoon of Shame as I like to call it, because often I had to use it on people who went from 100 to 20% HP because they got hit by something they shouldn't have been. But in all seriousness, it has only 1 minute cooldown, so I've been very liberal with its usage, or at least I'm trying. There also have been many times where I was too late. I think we are also one of, if not the most mobile healer in the game right now. We get 3 rolls and a dash after each one, but also Tiger's Lust is a great utility spell because it can remove root and slowing effects. You can nullify the chains mechanic on the menagerie fight in streets, for example. Having an interrupt is so good as a healer. It makes my life a lot easier sometimes. But we can prevent things with Lax Beep, which is an AoE stun, and Paralyze too. My big 3-minute healing cooldown is Revival, which is just a big instant button group heal, but its biggest benefit is that it also dispels the whole group, so that's what I've been using it for quite often. Then, my biggest favorite, the Get Out of Jail card, Diffuse Magic. I was saved by this ability more times than I'd like to admit, especially on Araka's last boss when I can't find anywhere to stand in. But also, a great benefit that I can dispel myself with it, which comes real handy on the dragon boss in Gambit, for example. I'm sure I didn't list everything that makes Mistweaver great. These are what stood out to me the most. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. My biggest struggle with this pack has been my positioning. Being in melee sometimes feels hard. I've especially struggled with this in Arakara. On the first boss I'm having a tough time during the onslaught because I feel like I shouldn't stand in melee while it's happening, but everyone is ticking down fast and I can't really stop to do anything, so I'm not quite sure how to handle that yet. The last boss is even worse when we have other melee in the group, like I feel like I can barely stand in melee. That is something I have to move out with all the time. And then, as I said in the last episode, Dawnbreaker is so buggy with the Jade Firestorm. On the last boss, I legit have to pre-position it so it's in a place where I want to stand. It's so stupid. Speaking of the Jade Firestorm, that in itself is kind of an annoying mechanic because you have to stand on it and the game is not very lenient with it. And then on top of that, as much as I like the animation of it, if you combine it with other ground effects, it kind of becomes a clusterfuck and I'm often scared I'll randomly die to something on the floor that I won't be able to see due to all the ground effects. Anyway, everything I've said kind of sums up my Mistweaver Monk experience so far. I'm not an expert, in fact, I still consider myself very much a beginner of this spec, but I've been enjoying it overall. It's a very different playstyle compared to Holy Paladin, which is also mostly a melee healer. I have timed all dungeons on a 6. We didn't deplete or disband on any. Mostly they were smooth runs apart from Arakara and streets, but that didn't surprise me. I was not very far from Keystone Master and I knew I needed to time an 8 or 2 7s or multiple 7s. I straight away attempted the +8 first in a floodgate. This run was kinda ass, not gonna lie. During the second pull where we lost it, the shaman just stood in the saw blade and didn't even attempt to move, so his damage was abysmal. The demon hunter didn't impress me either, so this pack lived for a long time, which became tough to heal. Then we had some really dumb individual deaths, like this demon hunter ripping aggro, or this one where we aggroed an architect in Narnia and nobody cares, so I get shot down. The tank realized it only after the second boss, but hey, at least we dealt with it, I guess. We were about 30 seconds over time, which is not a lot, but on top of the deaths, the damage dealers' overalls were not big enough. After that deplete, I decided to stick to 7s for now. This Arakara made me sweat before we even began the key, with the shaman asking for a big lost pool, unfortified, saying if we die, we die. Well, sure mate, it's not like you have to heal it, right? We luckily managed that pool, but on the boss I did something incredibly dumb that I didn't even realize until now. I Ring of Peaced 3 ads into the boss, which almost wiped us. On the second boss, the green shit claimed not 1, but 2 victims. Then, I have never seen this before, but somehow the tank fell down into the death zone. I tried to save him, but he kept going out of my range, and then none of my mouse overs worked on him, so yeah, that was interesting. Despite all the mishaps, we still timed this miraculously. While I was searching for a Dawnbreaker 7 group, I almost fell off my chair when I saw this listing from a guy who's already 3100 plus rating. He is currently rank 1 on his server by a mile. I obviously did not join that group because people like him always force some crazy MDR strats in a low-key pug group and ends up failing spectacularly because we are not prepared for it at all. The last dungeon was a Dawnbreaker 8, which was advertised as a 7, but the leader didn't want to lower it. I was once again a bit nervous about it, but apart from a few individual deaths from the Shadow Priest, nothing really interesting happened, and I don't want to rant about the stomp bug again, so here is me achieving this week's goal. Hey, Keystone Master achieved, let's go! I'm so happy I made it this week. I'm not using my catalyst charges yet, because I don't actually have any hero pieces to catalyze, so hopefully next week before going into keys, I can acquire pieces from DAOs or something that I can catalyze for a nice juicy force set. So, we are closing off this week with a shiny new mount, 696 item level, and a score of 2018. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm very happy about reaching this week's goal. Hopefully, next week I can time at least 110 for the vault. I thank you all very much for watching. Like, comment and subscribe and stuff. I see you all in the next one. Bye bye!